Okay. We are on chapter 24, chapter Chaf Daled, page 103. Let me just remind ourselves what we did last time. We're talking about the mindset that a person needs to be in. And the mindset that the person needs to be in order to be, not to sin. In order not to sin, you have to put yourself in a mindset. You have to contemplate a certain thing. Let's discuss. Let's discuss a little bit. If someone is married and he brings, when his wife goes to work, he brings over another lady to the house. Did he just go against his marriage? No. We're not talking about a clean lady. We're talking about he brought another lady over to the house when the wife went to work.
That's wrong.
Obviously, is he still married? I know technically he's married, but is he married? You call that marriage?
No, he's not committed to he's not fulfilling the agreement.
That's right. You can't say he's really married, right? Right. What if a husband beats his wife? Whenever she makes him angry, he beats her up. Is he still married? No. You can't really call that a marriage. What about if he raises his voice at her?
Even then,
Is it? So, look what we're doing. The things that we don't do, we say that breaks the marriage. The things that we don't do, a normal person doesn't go home when his wife is gone and brings another lady over. So we call that breaking of the marriage. Things that we do, we call that what? I don't know if it breaks the marriage. It doesn't really break the marriage. But for another person, it is going to be breaking of a marriage, right? And there are some people who would never raise their voice at their wives. So it's against the marriage. What about lying to the wife? I'm not talking about white lies. She asked you if she looks good in a dress. I'm talking about lying. You mean you never lied to your wife ever?
White lies.
Only white lies? Or you convinced yourself the white lies? Yeah. So the question is, do you notice what do? We put ourselves in a mindset that the things we do don't break the marriage. And the things we don't do break the marriage. This is what we do. The same thing we do with God. There are some commandments we're never going to do. Remember, this book is written for religious people. Some commandments they will never do. They're never going to go into McDonald's and eat McDonald's. Such a thing is going to happen. They're not going to Michal Shabbos.
They're never going to break.
What?
They're never going to break. You said they're never going to do. You meant to say they're never going to break the commandments.
Yeah, they're never going to go into a McDonald's and eat McDonald's. So it's not like unless it's kosher, obviously. Yeah. I'm talking about McDonald's over here. Yeah, it's not something that they will do. They're never going to do things. They're not going to eat chametz on Pesach. Pesach is coming up. It's out of their mind to know. They're never going. They can't imagine themselves not putting on tefillin. Right? But there are many things that they do wrong every day. How's that possible? Why some things in their mind, this breaks the marriage with God, and some things in their minds, no, this doesn't break the marriage with God. See, we have such a thing in our mind. Whatever we do doesn't break the marriage with God. Whatever we will not dare to do, that breaks the marriage with God. This is what we're going to be discussing today. Okay? So, we are on page 103, halfway through the page, where there's two dots. It's about halfway through the page. There's two dots in the end of the line. And we're discussing, why do people sin? What do they tell themselves? I mean, it's the same person. He's a religious Jew. He's going to tell him to go into a church. He says, shoot me. I'm not going into churches. This is not something I do. Yeah? And all of a sudden, over here, they take another wife. They break God's commandments in many things. And they always have an excuse. In their mind, it's, I'm not breaking the marriage. I'm still married. It's like the guy who comes home and he beats his wife and he tells her, but we're married. There's some things, but we're married. Well, so one time I raised my voice at you. That means I'm not married? You know what he says? One time I beat you up. That means I'm not married to you? It's the same logic. Why are we using this logic constantly and we're not seeing the truth? That once you go against God, you go against God. It doesn't matter. You go against the whole thing. There's no gradations over here. It's either you're within the marriage or you're out of the marriage. Why do we make gradations? To talk not nicely once in a while to your wife is not the end of the world. You know, to some people it's the end of the world. They would never not talk nicely to their wives. Some people beat the wives up and they say, I'm still married to you. I still love you. Yes.
I think that we all have this instinct that the rules don't apply to us, that I'm special. I don't have to follow the rules that everybody else follows. I don't know, I see that.
But we're talking about people over here who are religious, who they try every day to do. What do they tell themselves? So let's continue. Let's look inside. ולכן אמרו רז"ל, this is why the sages said, al pasuk, there's a verse. The verse talks about a cheating wife in the Torah. And the verse says, ki tistei ishto, when his wife goes astray. When the wife goes astray. Who is the wife that goes astray? It's us. We are God's wife, and we constantly go astray. The question is, why do we go astray? It's against the marriage. We love God. Why are we going astray? And over there it says, Ein Adam over avera. Over there it continues and says, a person never transgresses. He would never do the transgression. Just like we said, you remember the guy that I always give the example? The guy who comes to shul on Yom Kippur, he's not really religious. He drove to shul. He came after eating bacon in the morning. But he's willing to give his life away. Over here, said, afilu isha menaefet, even a woman who's so cheap, she goes around and cheats on her husband constantly. Us, cheating on God constantly, not doing what he wants. Sheda'ata kala, someone who's not an intellectual, he doesn't come to classes, he doesn't get involved, he just goes with his heart, you know. Even such a woman, or even us, הייתה מושלת ברוח תאוותה, she would be able to restrain her desires, לולי רוח שטות שבה, unless, if not for the spirit of folly that went into her. And what's the spirit of folly? המכסה ומסתיר ומעלים, the spirit of folly hides, covers, puts on the ground את האהבה המסותרת שבנפשה. The hidden love of God that's in her soul, that's in her godly soul. Because you remember that guy who comes to shul? He loves God. He's willing to die for God. So how come she's cheating on her husband? Because it's hidden right now. That love that she has to God or to her husband is hidden right now.
Rabbi, do you think it has something to do with the fact that the consequences of the
We'll discuss it today.
are not tangible?
We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it today. וייחודו ואחדותו, ולא להיפרד חס ושלום מאחדותו. In truth, deep down inside, she's not willing to separate herself from godliness. She isn't. There's nothing you can do to make her separate herself from godliness. אפילו נוטלים את נפשה, even if you would kill her, just like that guy in shul. And you remember how strange that guy in shul is. Because yesterday he ate bacon. If you ask him, what are you eating for tomorrow lunch? He'll tell you bacon. But now, he's not willing to do it. Because yesterday it was hidden, now it's there, and tomorrow it's going to be hidden again. אפילו נוטלים את נפשה ממנה לעבוד עבודה זרה, even if you take her soul from her, in order to go against God, to do idol worship, ואפילו בהשתחווה לבד, and just like this guy in shul that we say, he's not even willing to act as if he's eating it. The guy tells him, you know what, don't eat the bacon, just act as if you're eating it. Even that he's not going to be willing to do. בלי שום אמונה בלב, without any belief in his heart, klal. So what's higher? What's more difficult? To die for God, or to not eat bacon on a regular Tuesday, not on Yom Kippur? Obviously, to die for God is much more difficult. So how come he's not able to do it on a regular Tuesday? Because on a regular Tuesday, he doesn't have that feeling that he's going to get cut away from God. וכל שכן, and how much more so, לכבוש היצר ותאוות הניאוף, in order to conquer his desires for another man, for that woman, שהם ייסורים קלים, this is much easier than dying for God. ממיתה השם ישמרנו. So the question is, how come she's willing to die to God in one area, and she's not willing to die for God when it comes to cheating? And forget her. Don't think about her. Think about you. Think about us. How many things we will never do against God, we will die, and then a second later we just go against the marriage. No problem whatsoever.
Because you may have a conscious desire to put you number one before God.
Also, he has in Yom Kippur, on there, he still has a desire. Where did it go to?
Hashem was present in his mind at that time.
So there's a point where God is there, and then it's very strange. There's a point that God is not there.
Yes, exactly.
And who decides?
The person.
That you're number one and God is number two.
Yeah, but who decides? Why on some days, for example, we just said in the beginning of the class, you remember the example? Some people would never in their life raise their voice at the wives. Because for them, it's like cheating. They would never do such a thing. Some people would. Some people would never lie to their wife. Some people would. What's the difference? One sees hitting his wife as the end of the world, the end of the marriage, and one sees raising your voice as the end of the marriage. Which is the truth? The truth is you go against the marriage no matter where. You can go down the line. There's no gradations. It's either you working within marriage rules or you're going against marriage rules. And we're going to see why in our mind soon do we give ourselves this leeway. וההפרש אצלה בין איסור ניאוף לאיסור השתחווה לעבודה זרה, so in her brain, she's never going to go to church. That woman is never going to go to church and bow down to Jesus, to a statue of Jesus. It's never going to. So how come she's cheating on her husband right now? She knows it's against God. She knows it's the 3 things that you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to murder, you're not allowed to do idol worship, and you're not allowed to, what's the third thing? Avodah Zarah, murder, idol worship, and Gilui Arayos, and adultery. And she's doing adultery. It's one of the 3 that you're supposed to die for, and not a problem for her. When it comes to idol worship, no. That she will never do. How come for this she's not standing? I'm never going to do that. You say that. So he's going to explain. Hu gam ken ruach shtut. This is the spirit of folly. What's the spirit of folly? The klipa. Hamelabeshet lanefesh haelokit, that is dressed in the godly soul, ad bchinat chokhma sheba, until the aspect of chokhma in it, velo ad bichlal, and not completely. Why? מפני אור השם המלובש בחוכמה כנזכר למעלה. Just like the light of God, the level of chokhma is not within her at that moment. When it comes to going into church, bowing down to Yoshke, she can't do it. She says, she feels it separates me from God. But cheating on her husband, that's not a problem. She doesn't feel it separates her from God. She says, I'm still Jewish. And you know what it is? A lie. There's no difference between the two. There's no difference for that guy. Eating bacon is eating bacon. The fact that you ate it yesterday, is as bad as to eat it right now. Not as bad because it was in Yom Kippur, but you understand what I'm saying? There's no difference. In his mind, he's saying, now if I eat bacon, I'm not Jewish anymore. I get cut away from God. But yesterday and tomorrow when I eat bacon, I'm still Jewish. And you know that statement that he tells himself? It's a lie. And how do we know it's a lie? Think about a czar. I know today we're democratic, it's hard for us to have thinking these ways, but think about a king. Yeah. No, it's not Putin, even Putin doesn't work. Putin is a dictator. Yeah, there's no real examples of today. Think about the same way people have loyalty to their country, people had loyalty to the king. They would die for him. They would die for king and country. King before country. Yeah? King was everything. Think about a king. When the king stands, and the kings have a set of rules. Do not kill. Do not steal. And he tells you, do not kill, do not steal. If you kill in front of the king, what happens? If you steal in front of the king, what happens? The king says, do not drive over 45 miles per hour in town. What happens if you drive next to the king 46 miles per hour? You're dead. In other ones also, you're dead. What about if he says, every Tuesday I want you to wear green, and you forgot to wear green, what happens? You're dead. Going against the king, it doesn't matter where you're going against the king. You know what they charge? The charge is treason. Treason is the same if you went 46 miles per hour or you murdered the king's wife. It's the same thing. They're both treason. Treason means going against the king. This is the type of mindset that one needs to be in, because that is the truth. It's either you within the marriage or you're going against the marriage. Either you going with the king, you're married to the king, or you're going against the king. But sometimes we give ourselves excuses. The important thing that we decide, this I understand, this I'm going to do. Some things I understand we're not going to do. So let's continue and see what's going on in our mind. We are on the top of page 105. אבל באמת לאמיתו, but in truth, אפילו עבירה קלה, even if somebody transgresses a small little minute mitzvah, הרי העוברה, when you transgress it, you know what you do? עובר על רצון העליון ברוך הוא. Forget what you did. What you did is not important. It's not what you did. It's who you did it to. You just went against the king. You're a treason. I say it in English? You're a what? A rebel. You committed treason. That's what you did. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. The king wanted one thing, and you did the opposite of what the king wanted. What's the difference? Well, what's the difference how? Where's the line? You decide the line or the king decides the line? This is the king's will or this is the king's will? What happens when you transgress any mitzvah? הוא בתכלית הפירוד מייחודותו ואחדותו יתברך. At that moment, a person cuts himself off from the king. In other words, he stopped receiving his life force from God. Where is he receiving his life force now? From the same level, rape is receiving life force. This is rape. He's going against the king. From the same level, impurity is receiving life force. That's where he's receiving life force. That's what enlivens him right now. In other words, you can choose. Either you get God giving you energy and making you alive, or you get anti-godliness.
Positive versus negative
Yeah,
energy.
anti-godliness invigorating you. And at that moment, he's worse than יותר מסטרא אחרא וקליפה נקראים אלוקים אחרים. He's worse than rape. He's worse than those things. ועל זה, ועבודה זרה, and he's worse than idol worship, ממש, really. ויותר מכל הדברים הנשפעים ממנה, and more than all the things that come out of these spirits of impurity. בעולם הזה, in this world, that what are these? שהם בהמות טמאות, these are the animals which are impure, וחיות ועופות טמאים, and animals and birds which are impure, ושקצים ורמסים, and all kinds of creepy crawlies that people that are not kosher. וכמאמר, and just like the saying says, יתוש קדמך, and net comes before you. Let's give some explanations. I'm going to talk a little bit outside, so we're going to get an explanation of what's going on over here. Who do you know is a kind person? We know a kind person. We take example from Abraham. Abraham was kind. What's the definition of kindness? Many people, I don't think they understand. There's kindness of kedusha, kindness of holiness, and then there's kindness of klipa, kindness of not holiness, of klipa, of the other side of holiness. Let's take an example just to make things understood. Abraham was ultimate kindness. His son was Yitzchak. Yitzchak was ultimate gvura, ultimate might. There's Abraham had another son. He's also kind. What was his name? Ishmael. Ishmael is also known to be kind. Ishmael was kind. By the way, even until today, the Arabs are known to be very hospitable to people. They're kind people. They will give you their wives if it is necessary. It's like one of the jokes, but the joke is truth. They will give anything to you when you're his guest. That's what Avraham. So what's the difference between Avraham and Ishmael? The difference is huge, like Trump says. Huge difference. It's almost heaven and earth difference. Avraham gives from himself. Ishmael gives from what remains. Let me explain. Ishmael gives. He gives charity. And he helps. But Ishmael will only give charity after he took care of himself. First me, I ate, I drank, I fed myself. Only the next step is, now I've got something left over, I'll take care of you. That's Ishmael. Abraham, imagine this. Imagine what charity, by the way, this is charity according to the Torah. What do we call charity? Is it any, let's measure if it is charity. I have a car, 2024. Yeah? 2024. Nice car, only 15,000 miles, new, pretty much new car, right? 12,000 miles, nothing on it. And all of a sudden, I want the same car, but it's 2026. Same car, brand new. So now I'm a charitable person. Right? As a charitable person, I don't need two cars. I can sell the other car, but since I got this car as a present, you know what I said? Just like I got a present, let me be charitable and give the other car as a present. So I take the 2024 car and I give it to charity, to someone else. That's Ishmael.
Abraham would give the new car away.
Very good.
Keep the other one.
That's right. That's giving of oneself or giving. It's completely different level.
Leftovers.
And keeping left. Everybody is kind when? From the leftovers. You're not kind from your food. You're kind from the food that remains. Yeah? A woman, you know, one of those fancy women, just got a new mink coat. And there's a beggar that knocks on the door and he says, "Miss, I'm cold." Which coat is she going to give him? The new mink coat she just got for $20,000, or the old coat that she has? Which coat is she going to give? Obviously. Abraham would give the new coat. Ishmael would give the old coat. Let me tell you a story.
I don't know if I've met anybody like that.
Huh? So let me tell you a story. This is okay. I'll tell you a story. A story about a chassid. I actually know his kids and know his grandkids. His name was. I remember his name soon. Doesn't matter. It's in Russia. Regular guy, by the way, not a Benoni. Far away from being a Benoni. Regular guy like me, like you. Berke Chen. That was his name. Berke Chen. Yeah. So the authorities in Russia were running after him. And you know, usually if they find you, most of the guys they put in jail, they went to Sibir. Either they shot you before you go to Sibir, or you died in Sibir. That was pretty much the case. Yeah. So there was another family over there, a Lubavitcher family, that hid him so that the authorities are going to find him for a whole year. Now you have to remember, if they find him in their house, what's going to happen? Not only he's dead, they're dead also. A whole family hid him in their house for a whole year. Now when they hid him in their house, what happened? There was a main room and then a small tiny little bedroom. So usually the parents will be in the tiny little bedroom and all the kids would be in the main room. They put him in the tiny little bedroom and they lived with their kids in the main room for a year. Now, The story goes even better than that. Berkechenz, the guy who was hiding, his wife was a very good friend of the woman who was hiding him. She used to come to her many times and she used to cry to her. I don't know where my husband is, I don't know. She never told her. As she's crying, he's hearing his wife crying from the other room. And why is she not told? Because if she gets caught, they'll be able to, and sometimes they will take her for interrogation and torture her to ask where her husband is. So she can tell him, she can't tell where the guy is. Yeah? That guy, I'll tell you a story about him, continue to understand until regular people to what level they can get to. That guy that was hiding him, after a year he was there, whatever, he escaped, and he was okay. That guy who was hiding here, a few years later, somebody else, another Jew, told on him. Yeah? Told on him. Told the authorities that he was there. And he was sent to Sibiu. He survived Sibiu. Years later, he's in America now. That guy is in America. And the guy who told on him, nobody knew who told on him. Yeah? But they were very good friends. They would come in constantly. He would always come and visit his friend, the guy who told on him, which he so-called doesn't know. Yeah? And they were great friends afterwards, after the whole scenario. One time his son, the son of the guy who was caught, went to Russia and he found documents from the KGB, and in the documents it said who killed him. Who not killed him? Who told the KGB about his father? That's right. So he came back home with his documents, made a copy, and he gave it to his father. He gave the court documents to his father. And his father looked at the documents, says, I think you wanted to look at it, because he knew that he's very close to the guy who gave him over. You know? So the father told him, can you do me a favor, go to the next room, give me a book over there while I look it over? He comes back, and his father is standing over the sink, burning those documents. Yeah, burning them. And his father telling him, I know what it says over here. I know what it says over here. Don't think I'm a fool. I know exactly, I knew all the times who's the guy. So the kid asks his father, so why are you such good friends? And listen to what he says. I don't want him to feel bad. Now, and this is a guy like me and like you. A person who worked on himself. We're not talking about the level of a Beinoni over here. We're not talking about a Beinoni. We're talking, see, everybody, when you take something, you take sustenance from God, you're supposed to also give. And when you give, you're supposed to give from whom? You're supposed to give your life, not things you don't need. You're not giving your life. You're supposed to give your energy. You're supposed to give who you are. That's what you're supposed to do. A person's supposed to give his life force over. So every organism on the face of the earth takes in and is required from God also give. Don't just take. There is an animal that says, it says about it, I don't know if it's possible biologically, it doesn't matter, it might be mystical, but might be not our point, that it only takes and it doesn't give. In other words, it's like a bloodsucker. It only takes, but it doesn't give anything back to society. It can only take in. And over here it says, at that moment, that when you go against God, you lower than that animal. Yatush kedmach. You lower. Why? The af yatush, because even this animal who's called a gnat, שמכניס ואינו מוציא, he only takes, he never gives, שהיא הקליפה היותר תחתונה, this is the lowest level, ורחוקה מבחינת הקדושה, it is so far away from holiness, המשפלת בתכלית הריחוק, that is completely far away. What is this animal? קודמת לאיש החוטא. At that moment when you sin, it comes before you. The energy goes first to it and only then to you. It comes, it has, God wants it more than he wants you. בהשתלשלות וירידת החיות מרצון העליון. In other words, it is completely against God. 100% against God what you're doing. He has, that creature has in God's mind some service. I don't know what some service. At least you can learn something from it. Whatever the service is. וכל שכן, how much more so? שאר בעלי חיים, although other animals which are not kosher, הטמאים, that are impure, ואפילו חיות רעות, even bad animals, that are only, זהו, like snakes, scorpions, שכולם אינם משנים תפקידם, because they all do the job that God gave them to do. And you are married to God, you're God's wife, and what do? The job that God told you not to do. You go against God. You're supposed to elevate God, to be his wife, to grow him in this world, to have his babies. And instead of having babies, you're having animals that are against him. ופקודתו יתברך שמורה רוחם ואפילו חיות רעות שכולם אינם משנים תפקידם ופקודתו יתברך שמרה רוחם ואף על גב דאי הוא לא חזי, and even though he doesn't see. Let me explain what it means over here, a couple more lines. וכמו שכתוב like it is written, ומראכם וחיתכם יהיה על כל חיות הארץ. It says that our fear will be on all the animals of the world. Do you remember the story of Daniel where he was thrown into the lion's den and he survived? You remember that story? It wasn't a miracle. It's not a miracle that he didn't survive. Why? The reason why it's not a miracle is because God put the nature of animals, all animals, that they have fear of men in them. When he behaves like a man. And what does a man behave? A man controls himself at all times. So a person who controls himself at all times, an animal cannot harm him because it sees godliness there. It sees he is made in the image of God. I cannot go against God. He cannot harm him. At the moment that you take off the image of God from on you by going against God, the animal says, now you're lower than me, now I may eat you. This is what's happening. So all these impure animals that you think you higher than them, yes, when are you higher than them? As long as you remain God's wife. As long as we do what God, as long that we are acting in the image of God. At the moment we don't act in the image of God, they come before us. They have the right to eat us. וכפיר ז"ל, and like the sages told us, שאין חיה רעה מושלת באדם, says a bad animal cannot endanger a human, אלא אם כן נדמה לה כבהמה. Only if it looks at you and it sees an animal, it sees you not in God's image, just like a regular animal. והצדיקים, and therefore the righteous people, שאין צלם אלוקים מסתלק מעל פניהם, that they're always within the image of God, כל חיות רעות, all the bad animals, יתקפין כמיה. They bow down in front of them. כמו שכתוב בזוהר, just like the Zohar explains, גבי דניאל בגוב אריות, on the story of Daniel in the lion's den. So let's take it one step further. ואם כן, and if this is so, החוטא, someone who sins, ועובר רצונו יתברך, and transgresses God's will. I don't care if it was, in your mind it was important or not important. It's God's will. God wanted to do something, you went against it. אפילו בעבירה קלה, even in the smallest little thing. בשעת מעשה, at that moment, הוא בתכלית הריחוק מקדושה העליונה. He's completely removed from godliness. He's not united with God at all. more, יותר מכל בעלי חיים הטמאים ושקצים ורמסים מושפעים מסעודה אחת. More than any other creature on the face of the earth. Even the impure creatures. Up to here.
That was not easy to hear.
Yeah.
I heard it, but it was not easy to listen.
We didn't finish yet. So we're just in the middle of this.
That was difficult for me.
Chapter Chafhei, by the way, chapter Chafhei is going to be a little bit lighter. And chapter Chafvav goes 180.
I feel very young right now.
Chapter Chafvav goes 180. It's going to show us how great we are.
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay? So you don't miss that class. But right here, that's where we are, page 105.
And the thing about it is, it's hard to hear it, and it just makes perfect sense at the same time. I mean, it's just...
You know what? Just
oh my goodness.
let's just talk about one more thing that we're going to have to talk about next week. To just make. But what do you mean? There are gradations, you know. The fact that a person didn't... I came from work frustrated today. So I said something not nice to my wife. Or I came to work frustrated today and I went and cheated on my wife. It looks like there's a big difference between the two, right? And it looks like, what do you mean? It should be gradations. Why do you say that we out of the marriage? We're not saying we're completely out of the marriage. Listen to what we're saying. At the time that you sin, you're out of the marriage. Later on, when you say the bad word to your wife because you're frustrated, or not a bad word, you were sleepy with her because you were tired or whatever it is, that it doesn't look like it kills the marriage. If you hit her, God forbid, it looks like you killed the marriage right there, right? So we need to understand, why are we saying that there's no gradations? There is gradations. It's not all the same. And that's what we're going to explain next time. How come there's no gradations? How come it's all the same? It's not all the same. It's very different. And you can see in reality that it's different. If I just was sleepy with my wife, she accepts me as my husband. If God forbid I'll be more than sleepy, do something very bad, she's not going to accept me as my husband anymore. Right? So the same thing with God should be. And he's going to explain that next time.